Welcome to this week's airing of Global Perspectives. Today our topic of discussion is Syrian refugees. Currently in Syria, there is a civil war and it is unsafe for the families living there due to the violence. As of January 2016, there are over 6 million estimated refugees that have fled to different countries. A film by Charlie Chaplin called The Immigrant shows similar experiences between immigrating to the United States and Syrian refugees. Chaplin shows the difficult times on the boat to Americas, such as little food, uncleanliness, and a long sea travel. He also shows the struggles that immigrants go through once they reach a country, like having little to no money and not having a home. Lastly, Chaplin shows the difficulty of adapting to new customs in a new country, and being poorly treated or being disrespected by the current population. Chaplin shows these issues through his comedy film by showing the people running to get food, sleeping in small, dirty rooms, and the length of the boat ride is shown by having the majority of the film take place on the boat itself. Once the boat docked, Chaplin and the other immigrant characters were shown in dirty, worn-out clothes, hungry and looking for money, showing them being homeless with little to no money. Charlie Chaplin demonstrates the difficulty of becoming accustomed to a new culture through not understanding to take his hat off in a restaurant and not knowing about tipping. To show how disrespected and poorly immigrants were treated, Chaplin had the immigrants put in restraints before they got off the boat like cattle, and he was also treated poorly by the waiter in the restaurant. Chaplin drew on his own immigration experience to produce this film, and I am going to use a personal experience that my parents had to relate back to the Syrian refugees. Last September, my parents went on a cruise, and overnight, one night on their way from Turkey to Greece, their boat came across a Syrian refugee raft. It was filled with frantic Syrians that were trying to escape the dangers of the civil war. As of January 14, 2016, there are an estimated 4.6 million Syrian refugees trying to escape. Syrian refugees have similar issues to deal with as Chaplin demonstrates in The Immigrant. They must find a place to live, a source of income, and to go along with this, they have to deal with the negative attention from the few people who do not want them in Canada. According to the IPSOS poll, 60% of Canadians disagree with the Liberals' plan to accept Syrian refugees into Canada. Thankfully, Canada's government has taken in refugees to aid them in finding safety and providing homes and jobs to build a sustainable life in Canada. Syrian refugees have been addressed on the radio, news broadcasts, and papers, as well as YouTubers who have used this as a discussion point. With all of this attention, all of the same questions are asked. How many are coming? Where are they going to go? And how are they going to get here? There were 25,000 refugees in Canada by the end of February 2016, which was the goal of the government. The original resettlement plan was for 10,000 of the refugees to be publicly sponsored, but in December last year, the government didn't have any applications. After seeing the image of a dead Syrian child, Canadians began applying to sponsor refugees with a jump of 551 applications. At this time, Liberals said that their goal was still to bring in 25,000 refugees, but they never released a number of how many of the refugees would be publicly sponsored. As of January 26th, 14,003 refugees had arrived in Canada since November 4th, 2015. Of these refugees, 8,004 were government-assisted, 5,112 were privately sponsored, and 887 were a blended program of the two. 5,886 more Syrians were scheduled to come in during February last month. Last week, Canada officially reached their goal of 25,000 refugees. Canada's government has been generously taking care of the refugees, but they still have to deal with similar issues as immigrants like in Chaplin's film. They have to be accepted and allowed to enter the country from the government. They have to come with little to no belongings and adjust to a much different culture. Lots of snow isn't the only thing different about Canada. To discuss this topic more, join the conversation on our Facebook page at Global Perspectives. And thank you for listening to this week's airing.